Okay, welcome everyone, and Happy New Year to everyone. I'm going to call the regular Board of Education meeting to order for January 7th, 2025 at 7 PM. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance, so if you're able, please join us. Where's the flag today?
Back corner on the right. Yep. Yes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is order of business. For the order of business today, we were going to make one change. We're going to, under the superintendent's report, we're going to take item B before item A. I have no other changes. You good?
Yeah. Good.
Perfect. Next item, communication to the Board of Education. We have one communication we'll take up under executive session. And then the next item is public comment. So would anybody like to address the board? Mr. Carlson, please come on up. If you would, just state your name and your address for us.
My name's Ollie Carlson. I live at 455 West Hill Road. And dear board, this is to the Board of Education. Your task is to provide the best education in the safest manner at the lowest cost to the children and the taxpayers of New Hartford. So let's review. First, at the end of last year, you needed police at 3 schools to guard against a threat. Now we have a little over 400 students that could easily fit into this school. That would create a medium-sized school with 1 principal. Instead, the board insists on having 3 schools with a superintendent and staff for mostly empty schools that could hold 1,150 students. One of your schools would not be allowed to hold students today because it lacks a sprinkler system. Basically, you spread vulnerable children over 3 locations. We're living in a crazy time with carnage reported almost every day in our country. The board, for years, has avoided creating the safest school possible for the children of New Hartford. What should you do to change the situation? Second, the objective of any school system is to provide an education to the children. How well have you done that? Over the last 5 school years, the average ELA score is 61.64, and the average math score is 52.82. If these numbers were grades, it's fair to think of them as grades, the school system you're responsible for would receive a grade of F. But more importantly, these scores mean that 40% of the students are not achieving grade level in ELA. And 50% of the students are not achieving grade level in math. Now, this is with a 37 certified teaching staff and 24 non-certified staff helping teach. Now, if you assume a class size of 20, you have a certified staff that could teach 740 students. If you include the non-certified, you're over 1,200. If you look back over the last 10 years, you'll find the number of students meeting grade level year after year is consistent with this year's numbers. Now, what do these numbers suggest? Well, it suggests you do not have a teaching staff capable of teaching 40% of the students in ELA and 50% of the students in math. Now, before you disagree, these are your numbers. Third, the school budget for 2023-2024 was $9,418,050.32. Now that works out to $8,189.61 per seat. Remember, you support 1,150 seats in the school system, but you only have 448 students. So based on these numbers, you misspent $5,749,105.50. And before you disagree, these are your numbers. The board for years has overspent and overtaxed the citizens of New Hartford. not provided any benefit to the students in return. And what should you do to change the situation? Over the years, the board has been consistent in overspending and disregarding safety. The superintendent and the board have been consistent in not improving student performance. The teaching staff has been consistent in their inability to teach and require students to focus on learning. Consistency is only good if you're on target or close to it. The numbers tell the story. You're consistent in missing the target. Now, you can disagree with what I've said tonight, but before you do, I remind you again, these are your numbers. This is your school.
Thank you.
And before I do have a copy for each of you. Are you a member of the board? No.
While Mr. Carlson hands that out, is there anybody else who'd like to address the board? Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Yeah, Colonel. Colonel. Do we need that? Thanks. Yep.
Thank you so much.
Okay, one last for public comment. Anyone like to address the board? All right, seeing none, we will close public comment and move on to item D, superintendent's report. Jeff, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Chairman Kleps. First and foremost, Happy New Year to everybody, echoing the sentiments of Mr. Kleps, and looking forward to a successful 2025 school year with our staff, students, and school community. I'm confident that this will absolutely be realized. With the change up in the superintendent's report, I do want to give the opportunity for Emma to present first, so I will turn it over to her. Just want to remind you, Emma, to press the button, make sure your green light is on so that you are broadcasting live. And thank you in advance.
Good evening. I interviewed Ms. Stutlinger to find out what's going on in third grade. I asked her about the third graders' transition into Antolini. She told me that the first thing they do is a meet and greet field trip in second grade. They are paired up with a fifth grade buddy who shows them around the school and introduces them to the teachers to help them feel more comfortable at the start of the year. They also do a lot of exploring of the school in those first few days. There is a lot of extra adult support for the third graders. For example, there are a lot of other adults in the hallways during drop-off and dismissal to show the third graders exactly where to go. And just like everyone else, the third grade does a lot of team building. I remember my transition into Antolini, and all of the teachers helped us feel welcome. I was also curious about what the third graders' favorite subject was, and Ms. Stutlinger said, while most students would say recess or lunch, All Black has been the favorite subject this year. Because students are able to rotate stations and practice more of what they're learning from their model lessons in ELA. In All Block, students are learning about different tenses of words and the rules that go along with verbs. In All Block, students also have independent reading, group work with the teacher, and vocabulary work. In math, students are learning to add and subtract 3-digit numbers with regrouping. Finally, they are learning about Native Americans in social studies and went on a field trip to the Native American Museum. It sounds like it's very fun to be a third grader.
Thank you very much, Emma, for your updates and your reports. Much appreciated. And Dexter, of course, sends his regrets as well. He had a family commitment, so he could not be here. He's our other board representative, student board rep. So thank you again, Emma. All right, continuing on with the remainder of the superintendent's report. After our student report was, I'd like to first off thank profound thanks, as I did publicly already, to Lieutenant Combs of State Police Troop Barrack B, Trooper Figueroa, who's actually here today. Thank you so much, sir. Trooper Wedge, Officer Janko, Officer Puzo for coordinating and really prioritizing the safety of our schools in conjunction with First Selectman Dan Jerem. I was in all 3 schools that week of the 18th, the 19th, and the 20th, and staff made the routine smooth and normal for our students. Very, very proud to see that and for the well-being of our students. Any parent that had emailed me directly relative to the perceived non-direct threat to our schools, but in our community, I called directly and spoke to. I know our administrative staff also did the same thing so that we would have voice-to-voice, hearing people on the other end. I think that was very critical instead of just providing an email response. So kudos to our administrative staff as well for speaking to our parents directly. On the 18th of December, the absentee rate was 22 students, which is equivalent to 5.1% in absence. On 12/19, we had 106 students out, which is equivalent to 25% of our student population. And on Friday, the 20th of December, we were back down to 26 students out at 6.1%. The staff at the schools did a great job. These specific absences were due to the perceived threat, and they were asked as such. So they were not due to illness or other things or family vacation. So wanted to just share that information with the Board of Education from right prior to the winter recess. Also, again, thank you to the Board of Education. Our mental health supports were certainly utilized in our buildings throughout for students that needed help or support navigating either conversations or feelings or emotions on those particular days. Up next, want to just update the board on our curriculum council. We've had our first meeting. We had that meeting on the 19th of December. We have reviewed our mission statement and our bylaws, and we set up the next meeting date to continue our collective work. There are many new members since the curriculum council has not met since the 2018 or maybe 2019 school year, right prior to COVID. The curriculum council involves the following: Region 7, Park Hampstead, Colebrook, New Hartford, Norfolk, and Heartland. And the mission is really to get together and discuss curriculum and alignment of our work together and do more together as efficiently as we possibly can in our region for Region 7. So more to come from that. Also, a very special thank you to all of our town. We had a town meeting in the month of December. So I want to thank the town residents for your unanimous support of our grants and projects moving forward. That was very much appreciated. So thank you for that. Also of note, we received notification after the posting of this meeting that we received approval finally from the state of Connecticut and the Department of Education for our increasing educator diversity plan that was submitted once, needed revisions, was resubmitted in August. They just got back to us in the month of December that has been finally approved. So let me see if I made any. Nope, those are all of our updates that I have before wanting to turn it over to Becky Terrell, who we've invited here to be with us from Nutrition Services at Advance.
Before we turn it over to Becky, does anybody have any questions for Jeff regarding the superintendent's report? Okay, seeing none. Welcome, Becky. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I assume this is on. Yep.
Yes, it's live.
So just listening to your start of your meeting and the things that you are talking about, I can't help but remind you that I'm a 24-year veteran of the Plainville Board of Education, and my skin is therefore very thick. And so when I rolled into school food service, it was really it was a good thing because school food service requires some really thick skin too. So I'm here this evening to talk about a couple things, but the first thing really is the differentiation between meals that we serve and the purchase of a la carte items. So I think you might have in front of you the list of what area schools are doing. And I used, the area schools that we work with: Winchester, Barkhamsted, Colebrook, Botel, Region 20 schools, and then also reached out to Avon and Canton just to ask what they were up to because of their proximity to you. And you could see that they do not sell as many items to their students as you do. And that is something that was the way it's a history of the way that New Hartford has operated for many years. When I came to Ed Advance 9 years ago, we were not the sponsor of the district. The district was privately run and we helped operate it. And that food was sold as that's what the district wanted to do, and that's what was sold. Another company came in here, I believe it stayed the same. We took it over last year, the year before, same thing. We're just continuing on doing what the practice was prior to us being here. We did not bring in additional foods or additional items. I know there is a thought that it's it's a fact. It's a moneymaker because it's over and above the $3 that we get for a meal. So it does assist us. So far this year I think you have a list that shows up until November, but I just updated it today. So far this year, up until today, the total amount spent on by students on a la carte items is $1,966, of which $620 is milk. So when a student purchases a la carte, I think the superintendent explained this, it's something that their parent gave them money to do, because the only other item besides a meal that you can use your charge for is milk. So kids purchase milk and meals with their accounts, and other than that, it's cash for any other a la carte item. And also, I think the superintendent mentioned that if you want to, and this is absolutely your decision. I mean, it's 100% your decision as far as what you serve in your buildings, but I would, caution what parents are used to and if they want to keep it versus whether they would like to go in a different direction. So that would be, I would agree with that as far as just checking to see what people might think about making a change. So it's not something that's an Ed Advance thing by any stretch of the imagination. We are not a food service management company. We are your RESC and provide service to you to try and, we exist to feed, my food service department exists to feed kids. That's what we exist to do. So our meals, on the other hand, are very, everything is regimented, even the a la carte items that we provide. The Rice Krispie people have created Rice Krispie treats that are compliant for school meals. They are not the Rice Krispie treats that you could buy for your children in the grocery store. They are modified to meet the guidelines of the USDA. And that falls in line throughout all the different manufacturers and products and everything. These items aren't sold anywhere else. They're only sold to schools. And that is, the way the process works. So when it comes to the meals themselves, it's very prescriptive as to what we can give and what we need to follow. We're limited for sodium, we're limited on calories, we're limited on fats. And so a lot of the items that we serve are also modified to make sure that we can meet those guidelines. We're trying to, one of the biggest hurdles that we all face is trying to make ends meet. We make these meals on pennies. If you can imagine what we try and give our folks that work for us a good wage. And that's always a challenge. And then make these meals for usually $3.50 and some subsidy from the USDA. So we are, we're constantly challenged to try and do better and do as well as we can. We are, always trying to strive to do the best that we can and do a good job. We are very fortunate here in New Hartford that we have the staff that we do. We actually had a turnover of staff at the beginning of the year, and I was a little concerned, but we brought in somebody who's really awesome as our manager, and all the buildings actually have really strong staff. which is one of the biggest things that makes a difference, because the staff in those buildings are the ones who will take a step up and do more. Over the course of the year so far, I think we've spent between, I want to say it's around $1,400 from the beginning of the year till December 1st on local produce from the Northwest Food Hub. It's something that we had done with some of our other schools. This year we brought New Hartford into the mix. And so they're buying apples, they're buying lettuce, they're buying microgreens and, just things that you wouldn't think that kids would get. And I let them do that without really watching what they're doing, knowing that they're being cautious with funding, knowing that they're doing that to just try and improve the quality of the food, give the kids something better, and support the local economy, which is something that we are really trying to do. That is one of our goals, to continue doing that, to increase it if we can. And with that, I'm going to stop. And I gave you a lot of information. I know some of you got it earlier because I did send it out to the chairperson, and I believe Ms. Albert had the question initially. So I'll open it up to if you have any questions of me.
So let me start just by asking a question on the a la carte report by schools that you have here. All of these offerings are a daily offering.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I do see, I was going to ask you about the Miss 450, but I see on your advanced sheet, if you hadn't seen that across the board, it does explain the 450 is for the Oak Hill student meals. Okay. With that, I will open it up to the board for any questions you have for Becky.
How much food waste is there every day?
Food waste.
Goes out, goes back to the garbage bill.
Well, one of the best things and there aren't too many great things that happen with the program, but one of the best things they developed was something called offer versus serve. So the students can actually make a
Say that
decision,
again.
offer versus serve. Students can make a decision about what they want with their meal. They can choose whether or not they want to take milk, and they can usually choose the kind of milk they want. They can choose if let's say the meal is being served with broccoli, they don't like broccoli, they can choose from an array of different vegetables. We call it a rainbow tray that gives them a lot of different options. They can choose the fruit they want. And we're always giving them a lot of selections so that they can take something they like and hopefully eat it and not throw it out, because food waste is something that everybody is trying to avoid. And as far as individual schools, I couldn't tell you exactly what the food waste quantity would be.
I guess I wasn't expecting an actual volume per day, but that'd be nice to know. But I mean, generally, do you see a lot of waste going away again? Because it seems like that's a place where we maybe to start saving some money and maybe being able to offer better foods versus more of foods that get thrown away. I'm just asking a question. How much really just gets, the kids like, yeah, I'll give me broccoli. And then
Yes, right. So in order for a kid to take what we know is a compliant meal, they have to take a full serving of fruit or vegetable, right? So that is the one thing that we have to make sure they take. And that's the one thing we're worried about them taking because they have to and throwing it out. So that's where the offering of all these different, options comes in. They don't have to take a fruit and a vegetable. They could take one or the other. We like them to take both. Matter of fact, fruits and vegetables are pretty much unlimited because we do have a lot of kids who come up and want to take multiple, and that's what we want them to take. As far as how much gets thrown out, we're always working at trying to make things, as appealing to kids and giving them those choices and letting them decide what they would like to take.
Are there any other questions?
Come on, you guys must have something.
I mean, are these Tyson products, is that Connecticut-based, country-based?
I think
They haven't-
Tyson is a national.
I know it is, but
Right.
does every school get the Tyson product?
Tyson is one of the big ones in the market that we in schools use. But there's a company called ProView, there's Breakenbush. There's like 4 or 5 big chicken folks,
Yeah.
Gold Kissed, so there's a couple.
If we were to go with some healthier products for lunches, what kind of cost increase would that be?
What do you mean by healthier products?
Yeah, like grilled chicken, things like that.
Yeah, we have grilled chicken.
You do?
We have things that, not everything is breaded all the time, but we have to make sure that, again, we're trying to make sure we're putting food out that kids take. Our menu is driven by what students accept a lot of times, because we're trying to make sure that our participation is up there. So we know what kids take, and that's what we're working from. Our breaded products are whole grain, breaded with whole grain. They're lower in fat than what you're going to get at the grocery store. They're lower in sodium than what you would get. And, we're following those guidelines and doing it for $3.50. So every kid gets offered an 8-ounce milk, multiple fruits and vegetables, whole grains, and then we call it meat alternate, because sometimes it's not a meat necessarily. It might be, a vegetarian who's having beans or, something like that.
I mean, I think for me, the concern, and I know this is like a bigger picture, like across the country. I mean, I look at the ingredients in this and it's horrific. I mean, I don't know, why are we offering it? Like, if we don't offer it, then they won't eat it and they won't be tempted to eat it, and we teach them how to eat healthy. I mean, this is, canola oil, canola is horrible for you. Maltodextrin, silicone dioxide. I mean, has anyone actually looked at this sheet? Are the parents actually looking at the sheet? I mean, because I'm looking at the sheet and I'm like, I want to throw up, right? And this is what we're feeding kids. And I know this is a bigger issue. I know that we don't have a budget for this, but that's the sad part, is that we're feeding our children horrible ingredients that have been proven to be bad for you. Canola oil is bad for you. That's just a proven fact. I mean, and I look at the other ingredients, and this is what we're feeding our children. I don't know. There's an issue. I don't know if we're going to solve it tonight. We probably won't. But I just think the more healthy options that we give our children, it's just like in my home. We're not serving this food. That's not available. This is what we're serving. We're serving grilled chicken. We're serving whatever it is we're serving. And then they just get used to the idea of that's what we have to eat, because we can't get breaded stuff that's got 100 chemicals in it.
We can offer breaded stuff without 10,000 ingredients.
Right, but then the cost is obviously, we understand the cost is exorbitant, but I'm just trying to figure out, like, why are we feeding our children bad food? Like, then we wonder why they have ADHD and all these other issues in class, because we're feeding them dyes and food that is not healthy. It's a question, it's a bigger question is all I'm asking.
So one of the things that these companies are trying to do is they are working on being more clean label. They are working on that kind of thing. You'll notice that they don't do a lot of dyes. They are using other things usually to dye their, I think there was something where they're using beets, and, they have different options so that they're not using food dye as readily.
But you see, and I don't think this is the all-cut snack item labels. There's multiple bag of chips with multiple.
Is that in the a la carte purchases?
Yeah.
Yep, probably in there a la
Not the
carte.
only one I know is with our. But
I have 2 questions. One of them, I don't know if you can answer. Oh, yeah. Is the dollar amount you gave, is that net or gross? Is that profit or just the total?
The amount for the a la
A
carte,
la carte.
that's how much money we brought in. So that's prior to purchasing the product and prior
Oh, so
to
the
serving the
profit
product.
margin there's not probably huge either. And
It,
this is not a ton of money, really.
I mean, we're well over half year. We're maybe, if things continued as they were, you would make $4,000 at the end of the year.
And my second
4,000,
question,
and that's not profit. That's 4,000 in sales. So it's not making the bank by any,
Okay.
it's not
it
doing a
didn't
lot.
seem like a ton. The other question I had is, do you know how many students bring lunch versus get school lunch?
I don't know what your participation rate is right now, off the top of my head. Not sure. We could get that for you, though.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So there are a lot of people who think there's a better way to do this, and I am, believe me when I tell you that I'm all up for improving products and trying to, get away from some of the things that are in in our foods in general, not just in school nutrition, everywhere, right? But it's a very difficult road to hoe, and it takes time, and people making noise about it, parents making noise about it, before the industry starts to turn. I do think that they're getting the message, because when we go to our food shows, we're hearing a lot more about products that are clean, more clean label, and just avoiding things, and looking at that kind of what's actually in those foods.
What is the, you may have copied it in the email you sent, but the standard weekly menu, right? Because again, what we have here in front of us is a lot about chicken patty fritters. I have breaded golden crispy tenders. I have some penne. But again, is there like a pizza offering on certain days? What
Yep.
else is offered?
So we run what's known as a 5-week cycle. So pretty much it's a 5-week cycle that changes once in a while. Especially we might have a couple things we change seasonally. We certainly interject things when there's a holiday or something like that. But that cycle generally does have pizza on Friday, or a pizza type product. And there's a pasta usually once a week. There's chicken a couple times a week. Kids definitely like chicken. And the menu is posted. If you have kids in school, you can definitely see it.
And then the other question I have is on your sheet here, it has fruit roll-ups listed here in an order of popularity,
Mhm.
but I don't see it here. Is it something that was removed?
And is it under so you're talking a la carte?
Yeah, a la carte has.
It must be, I don't know, they must be putting it in under miscellaneous or something, and it didn't get picked up.
This is not printed out, this stuff, because it's not printed out. So we got it. The a la carte snack label, like a label, for 26 pages.
Mhm.
Has all that.
He's asking, I think he's asking if
I just
he's
don't-
not seeing it
It's
on
not-
the sale list,
Right, the sale list is not
Yeah.
on here, I guess is what I'm reading.
And when do they get these like sour blue raspberry cyclone cups and strawberry shortcake bars and cotton candy twirls? Every day?
We may have them every day. I don't know. There's also something that we started doing this year where we're offering those classroom celebration items. And some families are opting to do that, as opposed to, bring in cookies or whatever, like that kind of thing. So I'm not sure if those are on the list because that's one of the choices, or if it's something that they carry in the building
I
every
mean, they
day.
have great marketing to try to say that there's no nut-free, no artificial dyes, no high fructose corn syrup, but it's full. I mean, when you read the ingredients, I mean, it's full of really bad stuff. Like every single one of them is full of bad stuff. The vanilla sandwich, the birthday cake cone, strawberry shortcake bar. Like I said, they have great marketing to make it look like they're okay, but they're really bad. I don't know.
Yeah, it's they're they know how to make something that's compliant, that passes muster.
I just want to say, I think you're doing a great job with the limited resources that you have. You have your hands tied behind your back. It's always a struggle to get kids to eat. And, you know, you can give them the healthiest of foods, but as Tom was saying, it's going to go right in the garbage if they don't like the taste of it. So, you know, that's the struggle that they have too. You know, they have to figure out what kids will eat. We have to think like a kid here. And they're not concerned with those chemicals and whatever it is that's in their food. They're not concerned with that. They want something that tastes good. So thank you for all your efforts.
We really focus on trying to make like the meal look nice when the kids come up to take it. Because, you know, kids have gotten a lot more discerning. They're customers. They know what it's like to go out to eat. Whereas, you know, years ago, they didn't have that experience, but now kids really do. They know, you know, they go to Panera. They know what a nice sandwich looks like. They know what, you know, food looks like when it's packaged, you know, and looks like something you want to eat. And that's what they do first, right? Is they see it, and then they're going to decide whether or not they are going to take it. But I appreciate that. And it's, you know, food service industry is tough. School food services is tougher than anything I've ever done. So, you know, the regulations are excessive and the finances are really low. And it's, like I said, thick skin. You need it for this kind of work. But yeah, you know, we try and do everything we can to bring in some really good stuff. One of the things that one of my weaknesses is that I'm not good. You know, you see how these guys are good at telling you what's in those, you know, that the ice cream's good. I have not gotten out much information about our local produce and what we're doing, because it's like, it's unfortunate, but it's like the last thing at the end of the day, and I don't get that out there. But I would like to do something where, and I know it's really simple. I could probably send something to the principals and they would be more than happy to send out something and say, hey, look what we did. So we're always, you know, I've been kind of bugging the managers for new pictures and show us what you've done with the vegetables and the fruits that are local. Let's put it out there and say, hey, look at these, you know, apples that we got from March Farm or whatever. But yeah.
One more. Is there an option? Is there a way to opt on the different foods? Like we can find something that has no canola oil in it. Because again, canola oil is one of the worst things you put in your body.
Palm oil, canola oil, it's all in.
All that stuff. So is there a way to get rid of, is there an option for your company to buy from a different source? Or is it you guys that's why I asked about the Tyson. If you're stuck with Tyson, you're stuck with what they produce. And Tyson's just a factory.
So one of the things we have to do is we have to abide by a bid. So we're in a consortium with a bunch of other school districts, and we have a bid list, and we have different options that we can choose from on that bid list. But we have to stick with that bid list for most of the time. I think 70% of our purchases have to come off the bid. But the good thing is we kind of control what the bid is by what we use. So there is definitely there's some options there, and there's some things that you can change. But you are limited by price sometimes. If we're the only ones using a product, it gets more expensive because the quantity is not there. That kind of stuff.
Jeff, is it possible to send the ingredients home to the parents?
Yeah, I don't
Like,
see,
I'd like to see them actually in their Friday folder.
yeah, these will be, they're
Like,
going to be
this is-
posted
this-
publicly
Like,
too.
this is gonna go, I want this to go to the parents. I want these ingredients and this kind of stuff, and say, this is what these are the options the children have. We're also just being transparent to let you know that this is what's going in to your child's, this is what we have in the schools.
Well, that is an option for a parent to buy.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
So if you want to say
I've
it,
never seen this when my son went to Antolini. I've never seen any ingredients. Like, again, I understand. Listen, I know you have a tough job. This is not me attacking you. Like, this is literally not me attacking you. This is a greater issue that I have a major problem with.
It's not a school issue.
It's not a school issue. It's a major issue. And what I'm trying to say is we can do something. if we all sit here and say, oh, well, it's just what we feed our kids. It's okay. Like, hey, it's what we got to. No, that's not the right answer. The answer is all of us can and have the power to start doing something, even if it's one product we're taking off of. Instead of Doritos, let's have Siete chips. Instead of, this, there's got to be a healthier version that we can get, like, if we get all the parents involved. Like, my kid's not in school here anymore, but like he doesn't eat this crap. Like, I would never feed, and that's why I sent him lunch every day. That's why I still send him lunch every day at school up in regional, because I know what's in the products and they're really, really bad. So we can, to sit here and say we can't do anything about it. We have a big bidding system and we have to just buy from that. No, I don't think that's an answer.
I don't think that's what I
Yeah.
said.
No, I'm just saying in general, it's not just you. I've heard it from other schools. What I'm saying is we have the power to change, even if it's a little bit at a time. We have the power to take this crap out of the schools, not feed our kids canola oil, not feed our kids palm oil. And if the parents know, and we educate the parents about the really bad parts about this stuff and the dyes that are in here that are hurting their children, and we send them home. Let's send them home. So at least we're transparent. And then the parent can make the choice. If they know this stuff exists and they know what's in it and they get it every week, then and they still want to feed their kid this stuff, and that's their choice. But at least we have a responsibility to do something. Like we really do have some responsibility. As long as I'm on this board, we can do something. I don't know. I know it's expensive. I know, but maybe we start small. We change Doritos to Siete chips. How about that? Can we do that?
I don't know if those are on our acceptable foods list.
I'm just saying.
They have
as
to
an
be on,
example.
the state makes a list,
Or
right?
just get rid of Doritos in general.
Yeah, I mean, that's a la carte stuff. That's up
Yeah.
to parents to
Right,
purchase
and
if
that's
they
not
want
here,
to
but I'm
purchase
saying
it.
we're offering it. If we offer
And
it in
you-
the schools, then they're going to eat it.
You don't have to sell it in your schools. If you want to pull it out of your schools, you can do that. Every school we go into, we work with actually not even the district administration, because sometimes it's different building to building. There are certain buildings where they don't want anything other than maybe water and milk as a la carte. That's fine. That's what we do. And they sometimes they want it for different reasons, because they don't want kids to feel like they can't get something. They don't want it to take up too much time. There's different reasons that people have for what they sell in their buildings. But it's the building's call. It's not food services call for a la carte.
There already is movement being made to ban certain dyes, so that's already starting to happen at a not just a local level, but a federal level. So that stuff will be coming down into the school system. I'm just saying, to do nothing and just be like, you know what, this is cool, this is okay, like, hey, it's out of our power, we have to, we just have to buy it because that's what we gotta buy and we gotta offer it. To me, I'm not satisfied with that and I'm not okay with that. But I think if we tell the parents this is what's in the food and these are the nutrition facts and they get it and they're educated about what it is, and we send stuff home to the parents and say, hey, canola oil, this is the bad parts for your children. I don't know if a lot of parents would get that every week and then say, hey, it's okay, feed my kids a raspberry, whatever that stuff is, the strawberry cone or whatever.
And there's no way to know how many of those were sold.
Yeah,
There may have been 2 of those sold this year, for all we know. I mean, so you have to also put things in perspective. There's not a ton. I mean, there's not a ton of a la carte being sold in your schools. More than most, but there's still not a ton. When you see that the highest purchased item is milk,
So just so we stay on task here, right? This was a report, right? So again, this was information sharing, question and answer, to be able to have Becky here to be able to share additional information to us. If the board would like to have further discussion, would like to, again, publish the information to the public, we can add an agenda item under new business for our next meeting where we can have further discussion that we could take action on. This is a report out today.
all right.
So please, if there's any other questions for Becky, please ask her while we have her. She's very busy. It took us some time to get her here.
I know. Well, your last meeting was the same as my last
Right.
meeting. We had, I had a board meeting that same night. So, all right. Thank you, guys.
Becky, thank you very much.
Appreciate your passion, and you're looking into this. It's like you're asking the same questions that a lot of people either are or should be asking. So, all right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Becky.
before we close the topic again, would the board like us to have an agenda item at a future meeting where we could take some action on whether we want to publish information to the public? I heard again, some ideas about, proposing some alternatives, right? If you have those ideas, please plan to bring them into the next meeting so that we can, I'd actually ask that maybe you send an email prior to, that way we have a list of the proposed options that we could share with Becky and at advance to see if there's an opportunity to make some changes, right? And again, as I look at the area schools a la carte around here, again, Becky's absolutely right. Many of them are milk in a second meal, milk and ice cream on Fridays only, milk, water, juice, and yogurt. It seems to be the theme for, at least Avon and Canton on this list, as well as Region 20.
I can tell you that Canton sells all of the same things that they sell here, even though
Yeah.
it's not on this list.
Yeah.
Chips, cookies, everything.
Tim, do you know what the historical context is for why? Because when she said.
It was before me. So what she's saying is that Advance came in and took over for
Yeah,
another
that's
food
already
service.
been doing it historically, we've been doing it time and
Right.
time again, so we're just repeating it. Do we know any, do you have any context around it?
I'm going to say this board is the first board to bring it to the board level to have a conversation, would be my assumption. Yeah, 8 to 10 years in. All right. Okay, so we'll add it to the next meeting agenda. Please, if we could prepare before we get there with any options you might have.
You sure
That
you
way.
want us to come? So,
I want you to send it beforehand, please.
Yep.
we need a long list.
Yes, just put it in an email and send it over, please.
So I will add that on to our agenda for the February meeting
Thank you.
under new business.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to the next piece under superintendent's report, we have our district engagement plan. Before you, you should see an updated copy, a front page copy with a introduction statement of purpose at your table. So if you could have that out for reference. There have been a couple other tweaks and edits that I will go through for our first presentation of the district engagement plan. Want to thank our chairwoman for the subcommittee, Deirdre, for her work, and Kristen Young and Megan Albert as well, and a cute little Butchie as well that was there at our meeting recently. Butchie is adorable. So this is very important work that we do as a Board of Education, and this comes with a lot of thought, probably for my tenure here, looking at previous plans, where they are, how often they were referenced, what meaning, what power, what passion did they have driving behind it. And unfortunately with, strategic plans, they become something that is introduced and unfortunately sometimes not revisited and becomes something that's collecting dust on the shelf because it's too robust or it has too many moving parts to it or things fall by the wayside. So as we met as an administrative team and a leadership team, we determined that we were going to come in with very strategic pieces before the board to get us to a place where we could develop baseline information and really have a good springboard going forward. So originally you'll see that it was a district engagement plan of a 5-year piece. We've really limited that scope to what some of the work is now and why, and going into the 25-26 school year. Again, with the intention of coming back and looking at all of the goals and having this be a living, breathing document, not something that's stagnant and not going to be looked at again. So our commitment and promise is going to be to come back to this at least twice a year, if not more, because we already do look at our parent survey data every single year in the months of August and September. One of the goals here in culture and climate you'll see is very important to us. We want to have more ownership over our methods, and you'll see that here. Also, the other piece is, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Living, breathing document, coming back to it. There was another piece, and I'll get back to it in a moment. But this is really providing a navigation, like our North Star. This is really the direction we want to move our district in. There are a lot of big lift pieces here. They are not always all connected to percentages or numbers because every single year we get brand new kids that come in and we're trying to move them from point A to point B. So the board's goals should be really theories of action. Basically, if we're providing certain conditions for something to happen, then we should see outcomes. What all those outcomes are going to be, we don't know yet because we've implemented, as you'll see, one of our larger goals, we have been implementing a new curriculum of reading, and we have more work still to do with that and a lot of kinks to iron out. a lot of assessment pieces to iron out. And then we're going to be looking at data comparing DIBEL scores, what they were like beforehand of our implementation and afterward. Obviously, we want to maintain or increase our achievement. That's an obvious component. But we need to start somewhere and have a good foundation and baseline, and have it be succinct, because too many goals leaves it too spread out. So we've met over the course of years being together as a leadership team, and we've come up with these 3 components, which we feel are very, very important to the success of our school district. The first and foremost, teaching and learning. So we have to put conditions in place for our educators to constantly be learning through our professional development calendar, which is made in conjunction with our teachers. And we have a PDEC committee that I've talked about before to the Board of Education. They are really a huge cog and a huge wheel in determining what the next steps are and why, because they are living it every single day with the kids in the classrooms. They are looking at student achievement all of the time, every day, based on how they are learning or the way that they are not learning. Those are both very important pieces of information. And they take that information and then they adjust on the fly, on the daily. We meet very often in terms of our intervention schedule. We're constantly looking at what we can do better for kids. We don't want anybody to fall through the gaps. So teaching and learning, you'll see here, if we provide high quality instruction through a coherent and relevant curriculum with balanced assessment, students are going to engage in meaningful experiences that will maximize their holistic growth. So again, as a board goal, that is a huge umbrella for all of our schools pre-K to 6th grade. Okay. Does it get more finite as we go to the schools and grade levels and looking at individual students? Absolutely. And that is done on a yearly basis. But that's not incorporated in a large umbrella goal for the Board of Education, right? That more finite lens comes as we work with kids individually, work with new families every single year, and work over the course of their 7 years when they're with us to move them from point A all the way to point B. I don't want to put the cart too much before the horse, but getting to that point B, that final piece in 6th grade, we are missing a portrait or a vision of what that learner should be as a 6th grader ready to go to Region 7. Other surrounding districts have that. That's part of our goals here in the 3rd component. We'll see that. All right. So if we look on teaching and learning on that 2nd page, please ignore any of these. There's a highlighted piece there about mapping each of these. These are just notes that we had there. So implementation of new curricula based on the science of reading. We've done that. We've started to do that. We're going to continue to do that. That is not a finalized piece. There is so much professional development that goes behind introducing a full curriculum, from changing it from the way we used to do things, we've always done it, to we need to find a better way, something that's more engaging and meaningful to our students, to our staff, and to our families. And that's the feedback that we've been receiving with the new EL education curriculum. One piece. These are all big lifts. They sound easy on paper, but our professionals do this consistently. They work with other outside agencies to help us. We collaborate as often as we can with regional partners to make this realized. Just saying that we're implementing a new curriculum makes it sound very easy. Oh, you're just following a script and it's done. Absolutely not. There are so many obstacles and intricacies to introducing a new curriculum that we could do a whole workshop on that here tonight. So that is a major goal for all of our staff across our district, and not just regular ed staff, because special ed also has implications with this as well in terms of how they're teaching and how students are learning. When you introduce a new curriculum, you'll see the next part in goal number 2. This hasn't been done in a while here in New Hartford Public Schools, but the report card has to now align with these new expectations. That has to be done, again, in a meaningful way where teachers feel confident that they are grading students according to the expectations of a new curriculum, that parents understand the grades that are given or the numerical assignment to how they're achieving or not. It has to make sense. This is a huge piece as well. It's a big, big lift for revising our current report card to align with our current practices and curriculum. So we need to do that. That is going to involve teachers across a breadth of grade levels, because it's not just one report card. There's a lot more work to be done there. And then if we're looking at that report card, we also have to think of implications for students with special education needs. There's so much more that goes along with this. And we also need parent input. So there's going to be a lot of other focus groups that are going to be developed in subcommittee work so that we are doing it right and involving all of the stakeholders that we need to. We're going to start that work this year and continue that until we have a finalized product that we are proud of and that we feel strongly that reflects the work that we're doing. So along the way, we'll have to assess that. And then when we're done, we'll also have to assess it again, because we're not going to be complacent with what we have as a product. Math is also an area that we need to look at. As we know, these are our state assessments in ELA and in mathematics. We need to review our current math practices. We had a big lift right before the pandemic of introducing a brand new curriculum that then did not get its full meat and potatoes of having professional development that was very systematic and very succinct, but also very focused per grade level. Our EL education, we've had the wonderful luxury of being in person, having outside coaching, having our amazing curriculum coach, Heather Mathis, working with all of our staff, taking lumps and bruises along the way. This isn't going well. Yep. Oh, this is going better. Okay, it's getting there. This is a long process. Mathematics also needs the same type of investigation and revision of its curriculum with a lot of professional development. So it is our job as the board to create these conditions to do so. Yes, through our budget. Yes, through our beliefs and working through the process together. So that's teaching and learning in a quick nutshell. There are other pieces here that helped us determine that these were goals that we found were necessary to move our district and propel our district forward. Some of these scores and percentage that you see here, yes, our intention is absolutely to maintain them or increase them over time, but with a new curriculum, a new measurement, we need a baseline. This is really going to provide that catapult so that we can have that and measure against it and compare. Are we doing better? Why or why not? You know, is it individually? Is it the curriculum? We always want to take very, very careful lenses and looks at all of the information that we'll have coming forward. If we look at the second, school climate, again, another area that we want to maintain. We have tremendous scores here as we've presented to the Board of Education for our parent survey data. We have a lot of amazing feedback, 90% plus satisfaction in many, many, many areas. But some areas that we want to work on and that we realize are going to take time to work on are the following. We have to implement a new school survey climate. Yes, the state of Connecticut has told us to do that, but then that's a lift because that's a change in dynamic, a change in all the questions to be proposed, and we need a baseline because now it's about to change. We've been working with Ed Advance and other surrounding districts on this as well. We want to make sure that we're effectively measuring the perceptions of our school climate. What is going on? How are parents informed of student progress? There's so much to a survey. And then the second part is increased collective efficacy of our school staff to address challenging behaviors. Because if you see that one of the data insights that we had there was 67%, and we presented that here at the board, of staff responded favorably to, I believe the school effectively addresses behavior issues. That's not good enough for us. We need to have more collective ownership over student challenging behaviors as a school, not just, hey, I passed it on to the administration and I don't agree or I agree. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. We've lost ownership over student behavior and we need to do better with that. So that's not a night flip the switch and we're done with it. We need to create very strategic pieces for this. It's just an overarching goal for us as a Board of Education to understand culture and climate needs some work. These are some particular areas that we're going to be working on, but we have a new survey. So we need time to look at that, collect that baseline data. We'll do that this year in the spring. We'll analyze that and look at that over the summertime and then come back next year because it's kind of mid-cycle when we're presenting this. We'll come back next year with more of that information to present to everybody and take a comparison. We need a baseline though first. The last piece is the vision of a learner. If you're familiar with Region 7, you guys, they have a portrait of a graduate. So they have very specific categories and things that they are looking for as students are prepared and ready to graduate from Region 7. Look at other neighboring districts. They have a vision of a graduate or a portrait of a graduate, what they look like, creative thinkers, problem solvers, emotionally intelligent to connect with others, to network. There are so many aspects and components. We are in the very infancy, baby stages of this process. It's exciting, but it's also a huge endeavor. This will absolutely not be done in 1 year or 2 years, but we're starting this work now because it's something that we lack. What do we want our sixth graders to look like, sound like, act like when they leave us? And we're ready to launch them into the world in middle school and beyond, right? The remainder of their middle school career and then high school and beyond that. What do we want them to be prepared with? So we have a lot of work to do. We have to talk to our parents, our families, our community. We have to talk to our students. We have to talk to educators, we have so much more work to do here to develop that common definition of what the dispositions of a learner really should be in New Hartford Public Schools, what our expectations are, and then continuously revise that, because that may change over time, but we need a baseline. We need something to start with so that we have expectations that are common to our community, common to our school cultures as well, that students know, hey, to be a learner, this is what it looks like. So there's work, so much to be done here. And again, at a board level, it's very huge. It's a big, giant umbrella. The schools then take this information, they take our goals, which we've made very succinct, they take it and then drive it into what's appropriate for their culture and their climate. But if we don't have a navigating North Star as a board and as the schools, everyone's left to go kind of on their own. That's not what we want. We want the same great educational experience at all of our schools, and then to see a great student leaving us when they're sixth graders going on to seventh grade over at Region 7. So that's the intent of this engagement plan. It's an engagement plan because we have a lot of engagement to do with a lot of stakeholders and a lot of community members and a lot of our staff. So there's a ton of work to do. The introduction statement was lacking. I added that in here. I apologize that you didn't have time to review that prior to. Certainly, you could take a look at that tonight, tomorrow over time. If you have any questions about that or feedback, please email me that so I could take it under consideration and advisement with the remainder of my leadership team. But this is exciting work, but it's a lot of work, and some parts are unknown, not going to be, elusive. There are some things that I don't know based on this. I don't know how many scale score points we're going to see our students increase by. We've seen them increase over time. We've presented that over the past 3 years that I've been here. So our students are making good growth. How much more can they make? We need to see after our curriculums have been implemented and other systems have been in place for a while to see how much more we're able to grow and push our kids. With having new students every single year, they come into us as little pre-K kids and kindergartners. We never know what we're going to get. And it's our job to take them from wherever they are and to grow them further along, and to have them absolutely shine and be their best every single day with us in New Hartford Public Schools. So that's it in a huge nutshell. I feel like my mouth is completely dry right now, so I need a sip of water, but I would love to take questions, comments from anybody here at the board.
Well, let me start with, you had mentioned an introduction statement. Where is that? Yeah. Do I not have it?
You didn't have it apparently. Sorry, I thought I put copies on your table. My apologies, and I apologize again. That was lacking. That was not part of it originally. So thank you for the subcommittee again for that feedback.
All right, any questions for Superintendent on the district engagement plan?
I have some questions.
Yes.
I want to go back to teaching and learning and some of the goals here. I see that you've labeled these as 24-25 engagement goals. I want to better understand. The goal 1 is implementation of new curricula based on the science of reading. You said this is a long-term process. What exactly do we expect to get done in 24-25? Do you expect this implementation to go on past this year? How will we know that the implementation piece is completed?
Sure. So last year we started to describe the process of having part 1 and part 2. So the implementation of this curriculum is not just a 1-year process and we're finished, right? So the first year we did a lot of work with an outside agency. Heather, what's the name of their? Yes. Yeah, you can certainly kick in. Absolutely.
So it comes in a two-part process. There are 2 components to the curriculum. So we chose to implement the first part of the curriculum, which was the model. This is the knowledge building component to the curriculum. This school year, the 24-25 school year, we're implementing the second component in the K2 community. It's called skills. So it's foundational reading skills, fluency, those kinds of foundational. For 3 through 5, it's called all block. So that's where they have additional language and literacy skills. So that's part 2 of our implementation. So after this year, we'll have implemented the in full. Year 3, we'll be looking to see okay, so now based on how those past years have gone, what are we seeing students doing? Where are places that we as educators need to use our teaching, and what is going well, what's not. So year 3 is really an analysis of how that has gone. And it is going to take some time. This curriculum, as you had mentioned, is much more rigorous than it has been in the past. And so so there is an implementation gap that we are seeing and anticipating. It's getting smaller, things that we hear staff and students doing now is much different than last year. Our modules this year are cruising, the things kids are doing, their engagement to their lessons activities in just 1 year.
So is it correct to say that by the end of this year, you expect the first phase of like actual implementation rollout to be completed? And then from here, we will not be implementing so much as reviewing our like efficacy and implementation?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So we have a curriculum review process.
Yep.
So when we started this process, there was step one, reviewing programs that were out there, reviewing our current data. Here, the second step was to select, implement, talk about professional learning. That next step is where we are right now,
Yep.
actually doing it. That fourth step is to analyze and interpret how things are going. So then we can go back to essentially step one. I mean, we're going to pick a new curriculum, but like, okay,
Yep.
so what do we need to do next?
Okay, that was super helpful. When we had talked about this a little bit last time, we talked about like what goals, like this is a 5-year plan, but some stuff is only 1 year. All of the steps, like for me, all of the steps that you just listed out, the 4 steps for the process, that is the 5-year process. I would love to see that documented in this plan for transparency. Our step 1 is this, we know this is done, then we move on to step 2, because again, this is a 5-year long-term plan. And what we're doing right now, we need to know that this is done before we can move on and understand what the full implementation process looks like.
I think that makes sense. What she just said, how she just said it.
Yeah.
We can just put that on there, I think that's great, so we know, like, okay, we did step 1, step 2, I think that's fair. The way you just explained it. was perfect.
Yeah.
We originally had on there.
I feel like it was in the original.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me take out like too much information.
No, I think it's really good. Put it back in. I think you originally had it, and that way at least we know, like, okay, it's step 1, now we're going on to step 2, and.
Yes, and just for.
Yeah.
Just information, we're gonna do the same thing with math.
Yeah.
So
It's coming.
step 3 and
Right.
math, We're
Same.
gonna be looking, we're going through that same process.
Yeah.
It'll be a step 1 for math.
So that helps me with like the second question, which was what is the review current math practices and curriculum? And then it says curriculum review process, step 1. So there is a process that you can that's already documented that you could drop in here so that it's easy to tie those 2 things together. That would really help.
Okay.
Okay, that resolves that. That. Sorry. I know I have more questions, but I need to figure this out where they are.
I'll go ahead and ask while you're
Yeah, go
looking
right
for
ahead.
yours.
Thank you.
On the back of page 3, I probably should know this, but I'm still learning. At the top, there's the 2 indexes with the bar charts, district performance index, and then smarter balance below. In this packet here on the back. of
Yeah, I
page
think
3.
yeah.
And what's the difference between the DPI and the smarter balance growth with the numbers?
The DPI and the smarter balance growth?
Yeah, I'll take ELA and then there's a math one. There's only DPI for
Oh.
science.
If I'm not mistaken, this is for ELA versus mathematics.
Is it 2 different tests or is it the same
No,
test?
it's the same. It's the smarter balance assessment, but district performance index also incorporates other accountability measures, correct?
The DPI for ELA would be like an achievement metric on smarter balance, so how kids perform on smarter balance. So that's kind of what feeds into this number. Whereas the smarter balance growth is a different metric holding the same data, but it's about how we perform from 1 year to the next, so it's about individual. When they put these numbers out, they want us to know how we're doing in both those areas. And how we're doing achieving and how we're doing well.
I was looking at this letter that we received today, and I think that the numbers he's using may be from the bottom charts and they're not from the DPI, but
public
from the
comment.
growth. Yeah, the numbers that he's using are from the growth and the DPI. You see what I mean?
Mhm.
I think he's just pulling, and I was confused about that myself until I just asked the question. It does seem like math is a little lower,
Mhm.
like it's the one compared to the state that we have the most area to improve
To
on.
work on.
I
Mhm.
mean, that seems to be
That's
stated
very
here.
fair.
I just had one more question. With you would know this too, I think. So the kids go to a teacher in the elementary and they have a main teacher. Do they ever leave the main teacher to maybe go to a specialist? Like one teacher's really good at teaching math.
I'm not sure if we do that in 6th grade, do we? Or 5th grade? Yeah. To get ready for
Mhm.
Region 7.
Yes, but we do, for MTSS, they do get specialized.
I had that experience, I remember, and my kids did when they went here a long time ago. Because there would be a teacher that was really strong at something, and they would teach all the 6th graders science or something like that. We do that a little bit with 6th grade.
It's just departmentalized, it's not necessarily built on
Mhm.
strengths. I mean, elementary teachers by nature have to be good at everything.
Right.
Because they teach all of it. We just give them that experience in preparation.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, I didn't want to give someone else an opportunity. Going back to some of the goals, the school climate goals. So our goal for, again, this is stated, what you have here is listed goals for this school year, which we're halfway through. So when do we send the survey out, the climate survey?
Yep. That's late spring every year. And we
So
send it
we're
out.
on track to develop a new survey and send it out this year in
Yeah.
spring. And then will we have enough time after we get that to actually increase collective efficacy of school staff during this year? Or do we need to come up with a plan for that and then
That is-
the actual increase
Sure.
for next year?
So that information's already been reported to staff, so we know that that's something that we're going to be working on across the district. So that number, if we're looking at something that we need to improve upon, that's 67%, we're looking for that to not decrease. We're looking for that to maintain or increase over the course of many years, not just 1 year.
So goal 2, we're assuming that we've already taken these steps and that when we develop the new survey and send it out in spring, we should see an increase in staff responding favorably that we're addressing these challenging behaviors in school.
I would say, I don't know that answer. For year one, I would not know, because really the implementation of the new survey is to have that baseline, because it's going to be slightly different, right?
Yeah.
So we may have some, depending on the nature of the questions, that if they don't exactly align, that might cause us to look at it differently or pause. I'm assuming some questions may be similar, but others are going to be drastically different. And then even the tools that we have that we've been working with at Advance and some of the workshops that we've gone to, there's other tools and metrics to look at it. So it's going to be a little bit different. But our goal is still to increase this collective efficacy over time, not just this year one. I think that's going to be a long range, more of a longer goal for us to make sure that we do that.
So again, my feedback here will be around differentiating between what you have listed as 24 and 25 school year goals. If we cannot accomplish goal 2 within 24, 25, I'd like to see a plan for like what that actually is going to look like. When do we expect to have completed the steps that we're going to take that will actually increase collective efficacy of school staff?
Mhm.
We're just redoing the survey this year and going to get a new data set and then work to improve that next year, then we can't actually say whether or not we've achieved this goal 2 by the end of this year.
Yeah, I won't know without giving that survey and then taking a look at it, because I'm not sure exactly what all the new questions are on that survey. So my assumption is that there's going to be something listed there that is very similar to, I believe the school effectively addresses behavior issues. But if the wording is slightly different, then yes, it will be a baseline. So then that will change these goals. And again, this is a living document. I don't want to restrict us to being like, this is it and it's got to happen. I get your point, but it may happen over more time. So.
But I think if we have a 5-year plan and we're listing out goals for one school year that we are halfway through, we should have a clear point of view on what we should be accomplishing over the next 5 to 6 months.
Yeah.
I understand that may change what we do over the next 4-year period, but my point is that we need to have something that says what we set out to do, were we successful? That we can like confidently say, when we get to the evaluation period for this, whether or not this is working the way we want, yes or no, we accomplished this.
Mhm.
But just for clarity and for my information, right, as I read this, I read these as two separate goals right now, right? Number
Correct.
one
I
is to
do too.
implement a new school climate survey, right?
Yes.
Something new is going to be implemented in 24, 25.
Yep.
But we have data that tells us right now 67% of our staff responded favorably that I believe the school effectively addresses behavior issues.
Mhm.
Are we not, and I guess this is the question, are we not today putting steps in place to increase that 67% with the survey that's going to go out this spring?
Are we not putting steps in place today to?
Yeah, I mean, we have this data that came out from last year.
Yeah,
I'm under the assumption that we have information and we have taken steps that when we do this survey in the spring of 25, our expectation is that 67% is higher.
we're hoping so, yes. But again, I don't know the exact language of the survey, if it's going to match this specifically.
But the survey, again, that's why I'm saying the survey is one thing. You're going to
Yep.
put a new survey in place. That's gonna
Yep.
go
But
for
he's
24,
using the
25.
survey results as the measurement for whether or not the goal has been achieved. And that's why he's saying that if the survey changes, then it's a new baseline. And
For this
we
new survey, I
can't say
understand. Yep. Yep, I
that,
got
and
it.
that's kind
I
of my
got it.
point. Or
Can't
do-
you just have two surveys? Ask the same old questions and then ask new questions on a separate survey?
It's for comparative purposes, yes, but I know that we have to implement a new school climate survey by state. And I know Amy had her hand up too, so she's chomping at the bit to say something. Please, Amy.
I just wanted to, the survey is not the only, piece of data that we're gonna use to measure behavior. So, you know, we're looking at the indicators, so the survey is one, sorry, that's okay, the survey is one area, but then we're also gonna look at our behavior and discipline data, so to your point, like, do we have action steps happening? Yes, so we created a district behavior
Flow chart.
flowchart, which is our strategy for this year. We're gonna use that information, how did that go? We have school-based climate communities that are really kind of the hub of where all of this work happens. So a lot of, it's not just about that question, but that question, knowing that that's the perception of the community, or our school community, you know, regardless if we ask it in the same exact way or not, we're still looking to improve that collective efficacy within those survey data, using our discipline data, using our climate survey.
So we have a baseline now.
It's more than just that.
That's more than just the survey data. So we should have some kind of baseline goal that we're looking to improve. That's not for 67% of staff.
So I think that when we're trying to think about this, we could, if we wrote down everything, like I understand the need for specifics, but if we really get into this will be 37 people, and it will be way too overwhelming. So I think we're trying to do an overall, and there are a lot of pieces that will fit that.
Yep.
And I think if we start to add all that in, it's going to be an engagement plan that by keeping it more open, we're able to adjust it within. I think, yeah, it becomes so much information that it's just not. It doesn't. Then this isn't like the overarching where we pull it under. It's then we're just using this as a thing, trying to go through. And it's a lot of adjustment.
And I'm not asking, so the point of this plan is to be communicating with, sorry, I can move back over to the microphone if I need to be. For me, the point of this plan is to be communicating and getting input from the community, stakeholders, like everybody in and around the place. So for people who are not part of this, how do we know that the goal has been achieved? If I'm just a parent in the school and you're telling me the goal is to increase collective efficacy of school staff to systematically address challenging behaviors, 90% of parents have already saying that they think the school's handling this well. So what are we saying to those people? This is actually what we were looking to, this is what we're concerned about, and here's how we're going to improve it. And then we will know that this is improved when we see this stuff. That's what I want to see. And I'm not worried about all of the sausage, like the meat that goes into the sausage or whatever, but that's what I want to be very clear about. You're telling a parent, hey, we have an issue here and we're looking to address this. How are you communicating that to them in a way that they can objectively look and say, oh, you did meet your goal, or no, we didn't. That's what I'm getting at.
When we review it annually every year, we're going to have this information, having that baseline information, and then we'll have that.
Yep. So then then again, I'm just going to bring this back to a pretty, very simple point here. Should goal 2 be restricted to year 24, 25? Or should you say that that is a longer term goal?
Unequivocally, longer-term goal,
Okay.
unequivocally. 24 and beyond,
Jeff,
25 and beyond.
I have
Yeah.
a question. I think, so like, I come from a corporate world, so I'm used to looking at like operational plans and like engagement
I don't-
plans like this, totally different. So I think that's kind of where we're like at a, that's where the difference is coming from.
Mhm.
I think if you just maybe like break it, maybe visually break it down a little bit differently and just put like, okay, 2024 goals, 2025 goal. I mean, I don't know. I think there's a way to break it down easier to get what she's saying, because I see what you're saying.
Mhm.
And I see what you're saying, because this could be a massive document.
Yeah, I don't want a big, massive document. I don't care about that. I want somebody who is not sitting in the curriculum meetings or sitting in the school climate meetings to be able to say, hey, we are doing what we set out to do in our long-range planning. And I don't see how we're getting that or making that clear to people.
I don't think you're gonna get that. It's like, we need to see 1 year of work and let us create that document and bring it back to you next year to
Yep.
say, like, this one.
I'm totally in agreement with that. But again, for me, that means the goal 2 is to set the baseline or something like that for this year. If we're sending out goals for 24, 25, all you're trying to accomplish this year is set the baseline. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because we are doing some of those strategies. I think that's what, like, when we think about not just the goal, but what is the work that we're doing, and like we have these insights, we know that, our teachers are going to be taking this one, for example. That there's work to be done with how our teachers are feeling about how our schools are addressing behavior. So we already have a lot of actions in place.
Yep.
So like, I think we figuring out like how to marry those things, so like that work is still reflected in here.
Mm-hmm.
That there is data to work from.
Yep.
The way we might measure it later might change with that one particular climate survey, but the climate surveys are still going to be driving what we're going to be doing next, regardless of, the wording.
Yep.
So I think when we come back in really report, like we might not be done with this goal by the end of 2022. We might not be okay with it living in the document for another
Longer.
year.
Yep.
I think that's kind of the work that comes next.
Yep.
Here's how we did, this is how far we got with this. We saw some growth, we still didn't quite, maybe we're at 75% or something like that.
Yep.
So what do we do next? Let's continue
Yep.
with this work. Versus being like, yep, check, we feel good with this one, now let's like
Yep.
think about the next. So I
Yep.
do think it kind of comes with our function on these things.
Totally understand. Yeah. You look like you wanted to say
I
something.
do, I think so my perspective on some of this, much like we assess our children.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing here. It's a very holistic, multi-faceted, multi-measure approach. So we can't just say, oh, the climate survey went up, we did it. What about MTSS? What about
Yep.
my referral? So all of that gets looked at, and that's how we end up, again, revising at the end of this year, headed into next year. How did we do on all of this, and how do we continue to improve?
Yep.
I think that's why it's hard for us sometimes to put what feels like a check the box in this. It's not.
Mhm.
I agree, and I don't want check boxes either. I don't know how better, and Deirdre, I know that you kind of like are understanding where
I think
I'm
we're just
coming
looking
from
for-
here.
I think it's just the way we're presenting the document. I think
Yeah.
you guys are doing all this stuff, but
Right.
like, if a normal layperson was looking at it, they would have no idea. Like, what all of that stuff that you just mentioned,
Yeah.
and the steps and the levels and the sub-steps and blah, 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 you're doing a time, clearly.
Yeah.
No one would know that.
Yeah.
And so by looking at it, I think what you're saying, right, if I'm hearing what you're saying.
How is someone else being able to hold us accountable to meeting our strategic goals? How do we know that what you set out to do is like, we're getting there, or we're making progress against
I think it
this?
just needs to be, you're doing all of it. Just
Yeah.
think visually, and how we put it on the paper, I think is what you're saying. It's like, it needs to be maybe worded differently or delineated differently so that we can see from year to year. I don't know, not exactly, happy to help delve into it.
We can go, but yeah, and I'm also the same thing, but like when we talked about the earlier thing, it was like, hey, the implementation of the curriculum has 4 steps. You guys know the path that you're doing for this stuff. How can we document the path that you're looking to take for this stuff in a way that somebody who's reading it can be like, oh, here are the 4 steps for this. And we have completed step 1 this year. We don't know how long it's going to take to get through steps 2 or 4 because we're learning that as we go. But this is what the entire process looks like at a very easy level. Like, again, I'm not looking for anything here, but
We will present that with, like, again, I think we probably talked about this being line, there's almost like,
yes,
we ask you to trust us to see what it's gonna look like next year.
yes,
If we're at this time next year and we're presenting,
yes.
and we have that information, I think it's gonna make a lot of sense.
So again, for 24, 25 is our goal, just we are establishing the baselines for all of this stuff.
Part of it where we're at, yes and no, right? Part of it where we're at this time of the school year and how we're presenting it now, part of it, yes, but part of it also no. And that's just the nature of when we're presenting these particular district goals.
I don't really
'cause some-
understand. You mean, like, are
'cause
you saying that
Part,
like,
part of these were
because
already,
all of this is already, some of this has already been done?
some were in process.
Yeah,
And then other pieces are obviously, not obviously, they're just going to continue on with revisions over time because it's alive. It's not done and it's not, and some is unknown, like I said, when I was originally starting, because there are so many pieces that we won't know the answers to without having the baseline, which we did put, it's somewhere in the introduction, I remember writing it, that we need that information first to then catapult from there and move forward. So that's why the revision process is critical. I think coming back at least twice a year to the board and presenting this information is critical and adjusting. And I think we'll have a better, clearer picture as we get more time to look at the data and look at the trends and things that we're noticing across all of them for teaching and learning, for culture and climate, and especially the development of a vision of a learner. There's no way I could just say, hey, this is what I think it's going to look like. We're going to get to that point. I don't know yet because there's so many other steps that we have to take, right, to get there. So yes and no for me. Sorry.
I think that changed the year, so it's not 5 years right now. This is like what we're working on for the next 18 months. So that is different than what you saw before. So that's different. So maybe that's what I think we're talking the same language, but this document now says 24. Because the next 18 months, here
Yep.
are steps.
yeah.
I'm going to be real short and singular and focus here. When I look at the data, the 67% of staff saying that we believe we address behavior issues effectively seems low to me as a teacher. And I would not want to avoid that by just having a new survey and pretending that goes away. I would ask that question again. As a teacher, I would want that question asked again. I've seen this happen in my teaching years. We'll bring up something and they'll just reinvent the wheel to move on past it. And that seems low to me. And I would ask that question again. That's my
Yeah, I
I'm not
singular
making,
statement.
I'm not making the statement that question's going to go away. I just think it may be worded slightly different, but still have the same spirit and intent. And then once we collect that information, we could address it going forward from there.
Jeff, how
But I
many-
get what you're saying. Yes, sir.
So, yeah, again, on the same question, 67% of staff, how many staff were surveyed?
I'd have to go back and look. I don't have that. A majority, I would say 90-something% of the staff took the survey. At least.
Percent, what's the number?
Oh, I don't
Because if
know.
it's 10 people, one person had a bad day, swings 10 points. That's
Yeah,
the point.
yeah.
If
It's
it-
a majority of our staff.
But-
So I would,
Is it a large number? Is it 30?
oh my gosh, I'm trying to have my photographic memory work.
If it's 30, each person's
If-
3.5%.
If Mr. Carlson's numbers are right, it's 37 certified and 24 non-certified.
Yeah, but who answered it?
Yeah.
How
I
many,
can
how many
grab that.
respondents?
I get what you're
Again,
saying.
One bad day or 2 people had a bad day, it goes up 6 points, down 6 points.
Mhm.
And if it goes up 6 points, then we're doing great. But just only because 2 people had a better day that day.
Mhm.
We're putting a lot of emphasis on this percentage point. That's my point. If it's a small cohort, it's going to swing all over the place.
You got it. Yeah, it's district-wide, and I know it's a majority of our staff. I just don't know the exact number. Amy, do you have?
I was just gonna say too, like with this person. Part of this is that there is. A lot of this talking points we have full-time All of those conversations went into the reasons why this became a whole thing.
So, again, just so we can keep going. So we can keep going here again. If I summarize what I heard through the conversation that just happened, I think I heard two important things that the board is looking for. One, when it comes to setting the goals, again, and I'm going to summarize and tell me if this is correct. The board, and again, I would agree that the board is looking for more defined targets for the current year. I understand from my perspective, all of your thoughts and your perspective of you don't know where you're going to be, right? There's going to be things that change. You don't know where you'll be. But we have to take a shot at setting a target. There may be reasons you don't hit that target, but we can't set ourselves up to always beat the target, right? Is I think what I'm hearing. And I would agree, right? We can't set ourselves up to beat the target because we don't know what we don't know, right? So we have to put a target out there based on your best estimation of where you're going to be in the process of whatever that process might be, right? But there's got to be a goal somewhere, right, that we've got to go after. The second thing I heard, and I would agree with this as well, and Frank, you're absolutely right. I don't think that we send any question that says anything different than the question we sent last time if we're worried about 67%, right? Even if it has to be on its own, we should survey our staff with the same exact question they responded to that gave us the 67% number. Right. I don't know. Again, that's my opinion. Again, I'm summarizing what I heard, but I'm also, giving my own opinion on this.
And I want to, I think you summarized that really well in terms of my concerns. My biggest concern is not when we put this plan out there and then we say, this is what our goal is. When we say that this is done, or if we get 4 years into this process and we don't have a way of saying whether or not it was effective, how are we holding ourselves accountable for that in a way that makes sense to other people? I don't want to go down this road and then kind of get to the end of it and be like, we're using all this different evaluation criteria and like, hey, the stuff we originally looked at over here that made us think we needed to fix this is still bad, but all this other stuff over here looks good and like we're winners in that situation. Like I would like to be a little bit more consistent with what we're looking at, understanding what that is, and making sure that we are holding ourselves accountable to that same piece here. I know that there are different moving pieces with students and teachers and all of that. I just don't think that we can set a goal and not be clear on the goal evaluation criteria. And then have that be it's not a meaningful process to me because you can just come back and say, well, the goal was this, and now I'm using all these other things to say that we hit it and just kind of cherry picking the data to support that whether or not we met the goal.
I feel like you have that. I think what we're missing here, I mean, I don't know, I'm getting tired, so I think I'm missing something, but I literally think you have it. You just haven't put it on the document. Like I'm envisioning a live Google document where you guys are literally, I don't even care if it's 37 steps at this point. Like write all that stuff down that you guys are already doing and that you yourselves internally are keeping track of. Like you have all this stuff internally that you're talking about that none of us even are aware of. Like you're doing so much. So just put it on the paper, I guess, and delineate 2024. This was the goal. These are the steps, step 1, 2, and 3. We've done step 1 so far. We're working on step 2. Now we're going to go to step 3. Like you're already doing it. You're talking about it amongst yourselves. It's just we're confused because we don't see it on this document, and this document is very confusing, right? They're already doing it. You have what she's asking for you, I'm pretty sure. It's just we haven't put it on the document. Am I wrong?
I think that's part of the summary of what we're discussing.
Okay, you have the information. I think just give it to us and show us the steps and make it a little bit clearer. We're done. You got it. You're already doing it. We just want to see it, I think is what the problem is. I think. Am I understanding that right?
And I'm going to say that this becomes, at least what I'm envisioning is this becomes a rolling document. So the problem we have right now is the catch up of what's not on the document because things have already happened. So I think the board is asking for a summarization of what's been done to date, just to know where we are in the process and then what the target or the goal is for the next step of the process by the end of 24, 25. And then next year, this document again is a rolling document. So now we know what we did, and now we're going to target the following year. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
I don't know
And I
if
think
this
that
is-
was part of our intent, and following where we are, it's kind of makes it
I don't know if
fuzzy.
this is a dumb question, but is it just, would it be more cohesive to present this at a different time of year? So it's not so confusing? I don't know.
It could have helped in certain
Okay.
components of it. Yeah, because if it were at the beginning of the year and the baseline was created, then we're further into the school year, and then we could say, hey, we've completed this component. Here are the steps that we've taken, and how do we know we're done, or how we know we've completed that step? I mean, it would be at a different pace and different process at a different point in the year.
I don't necessarily think that's true because
Why?
you should know what you've already done this year, like just if
I'm
you've
not
done
saying-
this step, I don't really.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying for next year. If we were in
Oh,
the
yeah.
beginning of the year next year, then I would be able to say, hey, last year we've completed this. So what she's talking about is time of year. Where we are right now is in the middle. So it just makes it a little bit more confusing. Point very well taken, understood. Okay. All right. So I would like to, unless there's more, we'd like to propose to come back. We'll table this and bring it back to us in February with a little bit more meat and potatoes on it, if you will, with some steps and some different pieces, and looking at them by year. So I think we've got it.
I'm good with that. Everybody good to move on? All right. Item C, 25, 26 calendar.
Yes,
Calendar.
so thank you to the board. We had made some adjustments in our December board meeting. Those calendars are now posted online, so those are available for the public, both our school calendar and our Board of Education calendar. So those are, again, posted to our website. Just a quick update on those.
Okay. That concludes the superintendent's report. You believe that?
Longest one on record.
Are there any
It's good,
questions?
it's good, it's good, it's all good.
Are there any further questions for superintendents? Going once, going twice? It's gone. All right. Board of Education Chair's report. I am going to be very brief on this. Again, we talked about the subcommittee discussion. We talked about it last week. I think the subcommittee, as I see, subcommittees have really been re-energized, between curriculum that we just went through in detail, plant facilities and operations. There's been several of those meetings lately going through some things that'll be reported on once we have some more information. Policy, clearly, we have some policies to review today. Negotiations was ongoing. So again, that jumpstart to each of these subcommittees has been great. The one that I would like to make sure we get scheduled, if it's not today, is community relations.
Community relations.
Yeah. Right, so if we can get that one going, again, if there's another subcommittee, they're all posted on our website. You all know what membership you have on them. If there's something that or a meeting that you'd like to have, but we should be re-looking at each one of these as needed. All right, good. Routine business. We have the approval of the minutes from the December 3rd, 2024. That was a virtual meeting. Are there any, can I get a motion to approve?
A motion to approve the meeting minutes from December 3rd, 2024.
Motion by Kristen. Can I get a second? Second by Deirdre. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Now, all those opposed and any abstentions. So we have, how many do we have? We have 8 of us here. 801. 701. Yeah, I can't do math. No, 701. One's the 8. So Tom abstained because he wasn't part of the meeting. All right. The next item is the approval of the expenditure report. Can I get a motion to approve?
Make the motion.
What we got? Tom Buzzy?
Yeah, Tom, I'll second it.
Second by Tim Russell. All right, any discussion, any questions, comments on the expenditure report? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. That is unanimous. Okay, moving on to the next agenda item under new business. We have, looks like 4 policies, or actually 3 policies and 1 bylaw to review. Penny typically brings us through that.
Yep. I could
Do
certainly.
these, do these need to go today, or do you want to take these?
Yeah, we could, because we want to have first read and second read. We've already scheduled a second policy subcommittee meeting for Thursday, and we were going to have additional ones to have first and second reads going February into March.
Good. Sit them then.
All right, so policy 1327 is a practice that we already are engaged in. This just puts it into our policy manual and codifies it. This is that we engage with our Winchester Youth Services Bureau. We have a yearly meeting scheduled with them in terms of some of the programs that they offer and supports. They also support us here at Ann Antolini School. And with this basically states it's a component for student privacy. So if you've read this policy over, it is making sure that information that needs to be shared is only shared that needs to be, number one, and that has educational interest. It's not just because someone wants to know something about a kid. So they support our students, they take care of our students. That's what this policy is in place to do. We've already met and signed the memorandum of agreement with them, have no issues. We feel very well supported by them, and likewise, it's a wonderful relationship. So that's policy P1327. Policy, sorry, do you want to?
No, again, all changes are highlighted in red.
Right.
So
Yep.
again, outside of that, these come straight to us from CABE. So
Correct.
does anybody have any questions based on your review? All right, this will move to a second read at our February meeting.
Next one, policy 4222 is, again, from state legislation, working towards making sure that our paraeducators are called paraeducators, not tutors, not all these different titles. That's what this did. It's Public Act 2441, an act concerning educator certification, teachers, paraeducators, and mandated reporter requirements. So that's what this has done. That's the essence of this policy. It's making sure that we recognize them as paraeducators, not all of these different titles.
Why do we have the strikeout for with instructional duties? What's that strikeout for?
That is for Title I. And how do we communicate this differently to our parents? What do we say about the Title I piece? Why do we cross this off subcommittee? I'm forgetting. For the paraeducators. Okay. Yeah, I know when we met, we said we didn't need this form. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions on P4222? All right, again, this will be second read in February.
For P5131.81, this is regarding electronic devices. Our team went through this with tooth and comb. I felt this was probably one of the most scrutinized policies that we've had in a while, but with very good intention, because this policy really puts a lot of the onus on families and parents, as well as our school staff, to make sure that students are being safe. They understand the ramifications, but also that cell phones and things of that nature are not allowed in the schools because of the distractions, social media implications. If you haven't read Anxious Generation, please read it. It's very, very eye-opening. So this basically puts into place all of the important barriers and distracting limitations within our school day. So we've gone through, even on the bus, we've talked about that. When the school day ends, when the school begins, it's very clear now in our policy as to the restrictions on cell phone usage because of the significant, I'll put it out there, dangers that they pose to our young ones. So.
I would like to, Jeff, if you don't mind, if anyone's looking through that, a lot of the strikeouts in the policy are because there was a lot of language in there around being able to use the cell phone for school purposes, because it was for K through 12, and we were just like,
nope,
small children don't need to do that. So if you're reading, that was sort of the impetus behind it.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So I was reading through the policy. Elementary school students may possess cellular telephones, possess them, and other wireless communication devices on school property and school-sponsored transportation, the bus, provided such devices are not visible, used, or activated and are kept in an off position throughout the instructional day. So this blends, this first sentence blends both non-instructional day and into the instructional day.
Mhm.
I'm
So-
confused as to what, as a parent, I would, if I read that, I'd be like, well, you can't use it on the bus at all. You can possess it,
You can possess it, yeah.
but so.
So
it has to
some
be
parents,
off,
some parents are going to say, well, no matter what, I want to be able to communicate with my child.
But it's off all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not opposed to, I'm not
Yeah.
arguing with you. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, to me, it's not written clearly.
Meaning between the bus and the school day start?
Well, elementary school students may possess cellular telephones.
Mhm.
They hold it on school property
Yeah, they could have them as long as they're not
and on the
visible,
bus,
used, activated, right.
provided that such devices are not visible, it's in their pocket, used.
Or in their backpack, yeah.
not
Typically
even
in
holding it,
backpacks.
or activated and are kept in the off position. So they're complete, in order for them to use it, it'd have to be some sort of ask permission, emergency, I got a call.
Yeah.
So phone has to be off all the time.
Yeah.
That's the intent of this policy.
That's exactly right.
Then
Okay.
they're gonna ask somebody to go and use it.
Yeah.
If they feel like they need to call their parent, or the
Correct.
office can call you and say, I'd like to talk to my daughter. So
Yep.
then again, then they can make a room and do it. Okay.
Okay.
Good stuff.
I'm fine with it. I just don't want to make sure it's clear.
So just for clarification, again, I'm on board with this as well, but this would say the instructional school day starts when?
There's a definition.
And later on, correct.
If you scroll down to like R 513181A, there's a whole bunch of definitions there that includes instructional school day, what kept in the off position means, school property. So that's, you know, if there's something that you think needs to be clarified in those, then that's worth looking at, but that was sort of how the two work together.
Right, so it sounds, that's where I was going, so it sounds,
School property means including the bus, so the.
yeah, but to me, this is the school building until the final dismissal bell, so that would mean on the school bus, when they are on the ride here, they can use their phones?
No.
They can't, that's school property.
Well,
So
it
that's-
says,
School day is defined as.
The school day is the,
Outside of
It says-
the school day, if they're still on school property, like, they can use it.
but it's, again, that's why it says you can possess the phone on school property and on the bus. You can possess it,
Mhm.
but it can't be visible, used, being activated, and it's kept in the off position. So you basically, the kid can take a phone that's dead, basically turned off, no power to it, and put it in his backpack. And that's the extent of his possession of that phone until such point he asks an adult, I need to call my mother, or the mother calls the school and says, have Johnny turn his phone on, I gotta talk to him, or whatever. Otherwise, the phone's off. No battery usage whatsoever the time he walks out the door. That's
That's the
what it
intent of
says.
this, yes.
Who's enforcing it?
School administration, teachers, staff,
Is it?
Bus?
bus too.
Well, yeah, more importantly, who's enforcing it on the bus?
Bus driver, bus reports, conduct reports.
Realistically, I think that's a tough one.
Right.
Yeah, I don't even know how you would possibly do that.
Well, I mean, that's,
Well,
No, but it's our policy, right?
Yep.
You
Right.
have it- It's our back pocket in case there's a lot of incidents that we need to come back. and
Yep.
get.
Well,
Actually,
this is
we
our-
shouldn't have done this in the first place.
Right.
Like, you don't
the
get
school
to
day is the
say
most
that
important
right
thing.
that is.
I'm all
Yeah.
for it. I
Well, that would
think
be
we should
perfect.
have.
Mhm.
I wonder if we should say though, school building or bus.
here. That
Where-
is, so that's what the school property definition is.
For number 2,
But if you look at number 3, it's means the moment, school day means the moment, and then it's the school building.
that's where I'm stuck, right? Is we're saying they can't have it on the bus on the way to school or somewhere else, but the school day is defined from the time they enter the school to the bell rings.
At school training.
It should be a three-word policy. No phone usage.
I know, but I feel like that like kind of like.
Or else.
rules around that
That's all it needs to
are
say.
defined Earlier in the document.
I'm not,
That's fine.
yeah, I'm not seeing it. When I look at elementary school student on page 1, I'm seeing that it's defining that you can't have it during the school day. And I would also search this document for when you're changing, you have another reference to
We're in
instructional
line with
school
what we're
day.
trying to
So
do,
instructional
even though
school
there's
day needs,
something in the language.
yeah,
Like
that's,
here?
yeah.
no, do you see here?
Just keep adding.
It's still called. You're calling it out. So I would search this document for any reference to instructional school day.
All right.
Because you haven't removed them all. But what I'm reading here is that the instructional school day is when they can't have it.
They can't have it on the instructional school day or on school property. The Board of Trustees-
Can't be
That
on.
was the intention of what we
or
were
the
trying to
bus.
get to, so we
But,
can do.
But again, what I'm saying is item 1 here is defining that, but it's calling it out during the school day. School day definition is saying that's the time from the time the bell rings, I'm sorry, till they enter the school, till the when the bell rings. Those aren't aligned with each other.
Well, at the
We added-
bottom
we
of
added
the
that-
Definition, it says it's
We added that.
inclusive of-
School-sponsored transportation could be between the time they enter school, they go on a field trip.
Yeah, it could be
and they come
any.
back. But this doesn't say to me, again, when you
Yeah, you
define
just
this,
add it. I agree with you.
you define the school day as the moment the student enters the school until the final dismissal bell. There's a time before you're saying they can't have it and a time after you're saying they can't have it.
Mhm.
That's
How you read it.
misaligned.
So the easy fix might be to just say the student when the moment the student enters school property.
Well,
School
school-
building
school
or
property.
the school bus.
Yeah.
And or.
Not
I mean,
all of them take the bus. so
I'm on
school
board, we just
property.
need to make sure we're.
It's a great policy.
And exits the school.
Good job.
So after final dismissal bell and exits the school bus, right? Because if they're walkers, that's, or they're getting picked up, that's
Right.
one
Yeah.
scenario. So then
Either
add
or.
exits the school bus. I got it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll retype that up for the second read. Okay.
Good job.
Next, bylaw 9030, we've done this. We actually do this in our board orientation. And when I was looking at it, the bylaw adopted date did not have this visits to school reference. So I wanted to bring that to the board's attention. We do this, Tim, we did this at the board orientation just recently. So when we added that on there, all I wanted to do is obviously update the date as well. It's our practice. This is what we do. There's nothing different. This is how we interact with our community, what the expectations are. So that's it. Nothing else out of the ordinary with that.
All right, those are all the first reads. Good. Moving on to item H, old business. Deirdre, you had an update or just a report out for Ed Advance?
Yeah, but you have a December one, do you want me to? I mean, you guys can, we don't need to take time to read all those, do we? I mean, that's the highlights of what's going on with that advance. The good news is they're doing a lot of great work. And there's a sheet on here, let me just pull it up, that Jeff included. So they send this out every month, which I really love. It just says, here's what we're doing, here's what's happening, and then they also send at the end of the year, hold on. Sorry, I'm loud. They do this every month. They send us a highlight of what's happening, what they've been doing, which I really like. And then at the end of the year, they send, how are they serving New Hartford? Which I think is really cool. And you can see like what our general membership resources are, what we get. Somebody asked me the other day, what does Ed Advance actually do? And I was like, I was able to pull up this document. I'm like, well, this is what they actually do. So you can just see, the communities and the members that they're serving and what they're doing. And the direct services to the district and how their staff are helping us. So that's what you see in front of you. And it just goes into, I mean, I would, if you haven't read it, you don't want me to read every piece of this, right? Okay. So if you haven't read it and you have questions, ask me, but you can see that they're doing quite a bit. And when I sent it to Jeff, I was like, wow, this membership is really worth it. And the December update, just a little bit more than what you have on here, but there's not really anything that's relevant or anything that we need to go into detail, I don't think.
Okay, good.
Yep, that's it.
Thank you. Next item is reports. We've covered everything to date.
Yep.
So we'll move on to item J, public comment for agenda items only. All right. Then the next item, we will exit the regular meeting and go into executive session. We do need to have a motion to enter executive session and also to invite Superintendent Sosa into executive session. So can I
So
get
moved.
a motion?
Go to executive session and invite the superintendent.
So motion by Frank at, what time do we have?
Hi, guys, thank you.
8:54.
Second.
Second by Tom Buzzy. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. That is unanimous.